today, just before 9 a.m., a man by the name of Andrew Arabaca, Arrabaca, arrived at 26 Federal Plaza, just behind us on Worth Street, at the employee entrance to the building, where he ignited gasoline. He poured gasoline onto the ground and ignited it with a lighter and an incendiary device. That device was a firework, a large firework in a canister. That proceeded to catch on fire, pretty big flame as you've seen on the internet. He then pulled out an airsoft rifle and fired 5 to 7 pellets, if you will, in the direction of 26 Federal Plaza. At that time, Federal Protective Services, 2 officers, a gray suit, a contractor with Allied that is employed to guard this building. And those 3 people and the 2 officers standing behind me in the blue shirts are the officers that intervened and took Mr. Arabaca into custody. Well, he had him on the ground. An FBI agent jumped in and they put handcuffs on him and took him in the building. He is currently in custody and he has been interviewed. Arabaca is a former United States Army soldier. He was enlisted for approximately 4 years, serving from 2001 to 2005. He was a repairman or mechanic on Patriot missile systems. He is 43 years old. There were injuries in this. 3 people were injured, minor injuries, 1 civilian and 2 government employees. Right now, our evidence response team is out working with NYPD and our New York Joint Terrorism Task Force to collect evidence, to conduct interviews. We have located a vehicle of Mr. Arabaca's. We have seized that vehicle. We are procuring or obtaining a search warrant. Mr. Arabaca came armed with bad intentions. I will say that 26 Federal Plaza has long been a target of extremists, of terrorists, and today the extremism was brought here. The building was attacked. Mr. Arabaca was looking to injure people and harm people. He had 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, and 3 knives, fixed blade knives. He had, as I said earlier, 6 incendiary devices or fireworks, and he had some other destructive items. He had a cart. He had anti-ICE literature on it. When he was being arrested, he yelled derogatory terms to ICE, used bad words, obviously.
It pretty much fits the type of person we kind of expected it was going to be, somebody who had extremely strong views, strong enough to where he would commit violent acts on it, and that he had literature that would explain it. I've seen reports of the manifesto and things like that, and those are just, it almost becomes just the same type of pattern each time.
Steve, notably from Commissioner Jessica Tisch, she said that charges had yet to be filed, that news on that was soon to be coming forward. What would you anticipate are some of the charges this individual might face?
He'll probably face domestic terrorism charges, and if he's a resident of Poughkeepsie, and domestic terrorism is not so much on where it happens, it's the focus of the terrorism itself. So the terror would be, or the violence would be against a domestic agency, a U.S. government agency. So I would see the Terrorism Task Force charging him with domestic terrorism plus possible use of weapons of mass destruction, not because they're nuclear, but because more than one person can get killed by a fire. So those would be the first things. Assault on federal officers. They could really wind this one up.
What questions do you have about the path that led him here to this alleged extreme act? He is accused of doing something that is really quite horrific here, and yet learning of his background, I just wonder what you think of sort of the path. They say he's a veteran. He was enlisted for 4 years, from 2001 to 2005, obviously key years after 9/11, a repairman on Patriot
Yes.
missile systems.
Okay. Yeah, that would, we're always trying to balance individual freedoms with protection in society. It seems like there were indicators in his life that could have tipped somebody off to his problems. I would love to see what his record was in the military. There is a point at which somebody who would join the military after, presumably after 9/11, somebody with that mindset is going to turn rapidly at some point, and whether it's an experience, a loss, whatever, we kind of want to find out when that was and how that was missed.
One thing that is notable is that if you look at some of the items that this person brought to this location, while they can be inherently dangerous, we're not talking about someone, at least in my view, as we've been gathering reporting and then listening to officials, that was simply trying to cause some type of indiscriminate mass injury or loss of life. We're talking about airsoft guns. Those are pellet guns. Law enforcement source told me that it actually had flammable liquid as well as fireworks that were there. And so bottom line, this appears to be some type of violent public political statement rather than just, the indiscriminate harm or killing of people outside. Again, that's not to downplay it. We're talking about very dangerous people there. But that is notable whenever we first talk about a motive, because there were other options available for someone, particularly in this country with the access to firearms, if their goal is just to cause mass harm. And so again, they're going to try to identify what this person's past was. Authorities had said that he had made some type of anti-immigration, anti-ICE enforcement messaging in the past. He had that there with him. And so it appears that as far as a question of the motive, there isn't one here. And then again, looking to charges, obviously you have an attack on a federal building. That in itself is a charge. The injury of a federal employee. We might expect assault on federal officer charges as well, injuring the bystander that is there. This person is facing very serious criminal penalties. But, although they have him in custody, thankfully no one was killed here. They will try to obviously glean as much as they can. And then the big question, was this something that this person had telegraphed ahead of time? Final point I'll note is based on our sourcing, law enforcement sources I've talked to, as well as some of our colleagues, they are investigating whether mental health was a factor here, which is obviously always a factor. And as we say every single time when that comes up, that obviously means that not everyone out there who faces mental health issues will become violent. Almost none of them do. That we have to note, but authorities are looking into whether that was a factor here, which is notable when you look at this manifesto and then the material that this person brought and the action that took place. And then we can see on one of the videos finally that it didn't appear that there was some great escape plan that this person had. You can see the fencing there that's along 26 Fed from one of the videos. You actually see him almost running right towards an officer that eventually arrested him as this all went down. So thankfully, again, no one killed, but a lot of investigative work ahead as authorities try to answer all the pending questions that they might have.